Hurry. Welcome to the 13th annual OminoDay live stream. My name is Marinez Carrasco, born and raised in the Mission District, Alabama Street. Hey. I'm sitting here with local 1200's DJ Sake One, born and raised in the city.
Frisco Filmo, what's up?
So basically, we wanted to just talk to Stephen a little bit about Andrew. Those of you who don't know who Andrew is, that's DJ Domino, which is OminoDay. This is why we have it. He knew him personally, as I did, and as many of us in the room did. But we want to just check in with him about some of the cool stories that he has about Drew, little Cuddy stories.
First of all, I love and will always remember Drew Domino. Not just a great DJ and a great person, but a really big part of the community in Frisco, and he touched so many people. And the fact that 13 years later, we're still celebrating him, a dude who, that's more than half of his lifespan when he passed. That's a testament to what kind of dude he was, that he brought so many different parts of the city and so many different energies of the city together. It's an honor to still be asked to speak on his behalf, and that's why I'm here. I love Drew, and I got lots of stories. I got lots of DJ Domino stories.
Well, I know you didn't. We thought you actually knew him because of DJing, but as it turns out, you knew him before that because he was doing some. So actually, let me reverse it. Let me rewind a little bit. So, Andrew worked for YMAC, which was it's a youth component of Coleman Advocates.
Youth Making a Change,
which is how I met Andrew. I was working there with him, Nancy Pili, and who else? Kisai, what's up, Kisai?
Jose Luis.
Jose Luis, es ciego. Who else was working there? Taj
James,
and who else? There was a few other folks that were there. Mateo.
Jason Mateo.
Dwella.
Creative Dwella.
And so anyway, that's how we met. We were doing some activism in the city, and that's how you met him.
Yeah. Me and Drew, DJ Domino were both DJs, so often that's our connection in a lot of ways. But sometimes I don't remember that. In fact, I met him when I was involved with youth organizing and youth activism around the so-called anti-gang initiative, which was really an attack on black and brown youth in California. Prop 221. Was it 221, right? Was it 220?
Which one?
One of them. There was 127. There was a bunch.
The list goes on.
Yeah, in the 90s and early 2000s, California and all across the country was very much like waging a war, a political war against youth of color. Drew had been locked up and was coming out of lockup, and through YMAC was organizing his community against some of these ballot initiatives and some of these laws that were criminalizing youth of color, making it illegal for 3 young people that looked alike basically to stand on the same court. It was blatantly racist legislation, and Drew, to his credit, being locked up and coming out and not being like, man, let me just get a job. Drew was like, nah, let me make sure nobody else gets locked up behind some faulty shit. And he got right in the mix. He was right in the trenches. And I was there as someone that was older in my 20s trying to support him and support other youth organizing with the different groups I was involved in. And that's really where I met him. I didn't meet him as DJ Domino. I met him as Andrew Ely, a formerly incarcerated youth that was a youth activist and youth leader in Frisco. And the DJing stuff wasn't until 4 or 5 years later. I got the good quick one.
Go for it.
So I was part of a group called Underground Railroad. I was also part of a DJ collective called Local 1200. Different sort of trends and energies came together, and we formed like a hip hop school in West Oakland. It was called the Mandela Arts Center. Shout out to Anita De Assis, Mal Wanyo. A bunch of us, the Underground Railroad folks, formed. There was dance classes. There was political education, there was graffiti classes, and graffiti kind of like formations, and I was doing a DJ class. I had DJ Treat You Nice and other DJs sort of like interacting with me and helping out, but I didn't know if anybody was going to come to this cold ass barely lit warehouse next to the West Oakland BART station. We like put some flyers out through different youth organizations. We walked around West Oakland and hung up flyers, and we was like, we're throwing DJ classes. They're free. Come through. Nobody knew who Sake One was, but I was like, hopefully some kids will come and they'll want to learn how to DJ. And through that process, we can start to like get to know some of these young folks and build some connections in the community. So my first day of class, Domino shows up, and I'd already known him, and not just through youth activism, but I had already known him to have been started DJing. He was DJing already around Frisco, and I was like, what you doing here, bro? You already know how to DJ. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, you learned, bro. Somebody taught you how to DJ already. And he was like, yeah, but I want to learn from you. And he was like, I don't feel like I've really learned to DJ until I've learned from you. And to me, that was just like obviously a big compliment to have someone who's already active DJing saying they want to like go back to step one and learn. But he was a dude that like had already picked up the thing with Drew was like, it wasn't just the basics of beat matching and like music selection, which sometimes takes a lot of DJs, myself included, a long time to pick up. He understood what it meant to be a DJ, to be a person in the community that sort of like is responsible for being a convener of energy, whether it's like a house party or DJing at a dance. Like that's something like DJs have been doing 30 years and they don't get that. And he understood that right away. Which is how I was like, this dude is a young Jedi, you know what I mean? He gets it. And that's why his DJ career took off like it did. Like, he went through my DJ class, he already knew how to do it. He essentially was like a TA, like in the class, he already knew how to do it. So other kids had never touched turntables before. So for him, it was just like, let me step back and let these other kids get their chance. And then I would obviously be like, Drew, like help that kid out because he already knew how to do it. But then it was like, you know, class was done 6 months later, and I'm going to like the biggest clubs in Frisco, Butterfly, Whisper, Mighty, Club 6. This dude's already DJing all those places. And people was like, damn, he went through your DJ class, and like he's already like one of the biggest DJs in Frisco, but he had already started DJing. He already had 2 or 3 years of skin in the game, but incredibly talented, and also like really a big part of sort of like the DJing scene in Frisco back in the late 90s, early 2000s was still really broken down around hip hop or house. And there was racial lines and there was sexuality lines, and there had always been parties for like Latinx folks, but Drew was really one of the people that would like Lando, Mixed Tech, other people was really like, nah, we're gonna create a space where like it's not like Latinx people have to go to like a hip hop club or a house club and sort of like wait for some like music that we like to get played, but it was more like Latinx folks could have their own shit, and not just have their own shit, but have their own shit in their own neighborhoods, in Bayview, in Mission, in other parts of Frisco, and in Oakland. And Drew was a really big part of that, and I don't think people talk about enough about how much, not just as a DJ, but as a promoter and as an event planner, how much he created spaces for the Latinx community to have what now is like probably the most poppin', you know, in terms of like nightclub scene in the Bay. Like it's really popping. If you go out, you're gonna hear reggaeton, you're gonna hear some bachata, you're gonna hear some dembo, and it wasn't like that 20 years ago, and I don't think people understand. It wasn't like that in the mainstream club scene, is what I'm saying. And Drew had a lot to do with that. He had a lot to like do with really pushing out like, y'all ain't gonna play our music, we gonna throw our own function and we gonna play our music, and it's gonna be so popping that all the promoters that are really from that scene are gonna be like, ooh, how can I be part of this? And I feel like Drew's role in that was big, and it needs to be stated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that initially, you know, this wasn't even a part of the plan, but a lot of things weren't a part of the plan. We were supposed to be celebrating at a park, but we're not. But, you know, I think that the reason why I reached out to you is because I know for a fact that you had some history, and I think it's important to keep that history going. It's not just an event. It's not just an event at the park. It's not just about any person. There's history behind this event, and it's important that that information travel along with the event. You see what I'm saying? Like in 20 years from now, we're going to still have this event, and people will know who he is. They're not just going to know it's just Domino Day or OminoDay. Some people call it Domino Day, actually. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's what's up.
Thank you for having me here. Long live DJ Domino. Long live the Cookie Monster. Love you, Drew.